So, EndeavourOS just had a big release, and I thought I would check out this latest version of EndeavourOS because I haven't checked out Endeavour on the channel in quite some time, and being a rather new distribution and they're constantly adding new stuff and improving a lot, I thought it would be a good time to take another look at Endeavour. For those of you not familiar with exactly what EndeavourOS is, it is an Arch-based Linux distribution. It is basically the spiritual successor to the now dead EndeavourOS Linux distribution. So let's check out the release announcement for this release. So this is their April 2020 release. Reading the release announcement, it looks like we have better video driver support. There have been some improvements to the Calamares installer, some theming stuff. Looks like they have fixed a problem they were having with a multi-boot with Grub that affected a lot of Arch-based Linux distributions. They worked on the i3 window manager theming, so they offer an i3 version of Endeavour. Anyway, I'm going to, of course, post the release announcement in the show description for those of you that want to read it. Let me go ahead and fire up EndeavourOS inside a virtual machine. So I installed this using Virt Manager. So this is EndeavourOS booting directly off the live ISO. When you first boot up, you are presented with a really nice, is this XFCE? Yeah, it looks like the XFCE whisker menu. And of course you get this little pop-up that basically asks, hey, what do you want to do? You want to start the installer and go ahead and install Endeavour? Do you want to open up your partition manager? I'm assuming that would probably be gparted. Yes, it is. We also have the latest release information. We have installation tips, troubleshooting. Of course, for me, the most important thing in this quick look at EndeavourOS that I want to do, I actually want to run through the installation and see if it installs correctly. Not that I think that EndeavourOS, won't install correctly. It's just the distribution that they kind of pattern themselves after is EndeavourOS. And EndeavourOS was one of the worst Linux distributions, and I installed it many, many, many times on a variety of machines, physical hardware, virtual machines, and I swear, 50% of the time that I tried an EndeavourOS install, it failed. I have not had that problems with Endeavour though. Every time I've tried to install Endeavour, it's worked flawlessly. So, but again, that's the main thing I want to check out is the installation. So it's asking me, do I want to do an offline installation, meaning it doesn't have to go out and pull down a million packages, and it's going to install the XFCE desktop because I guess that's what's on the ISO, or would I rather do the online installation, which is actually what I want to try because that's kind of a new thing, and doing the online installation actually lets me pick what desktop environment or window manager I want to try out. So let's do the online installation, and it launches a terminal, and the terminal is running something. I'm sure it's executing some scripts here, but it does launch Calamares. It says, welcome to the EndeavourOS installer. It has selected American English for me, so I'm just going to quickly go through a standard Calamares installation here. So all I need to do here, the language is right, is click Next. It correctly picked the Central Time Zone in the US for me, so all I need to do is click Next. English US is my keyboard, so I'm just going to click Next. I'm going to erase the disk and let EndeavourOS have the entire 20 gig hard drive of this virtual machine. I will not create a swap because, again, it's a virtual machine, and that swap is really just wasted space. So looks like by default it's going to create an extend for partition, which is fine. That's typically what I do on all my installations anyway. And then the next thing is the package selection. You have one checked by default, and that's the base devel meta packages, and then some common packages. It says recommended, don't change unless you know what you're doing. So this is like the base packages for like an Arch install, or in this case an Endeavour install. You need to leave that ticked on, but then you have some extra stuff you could tick on, like do you want XFCE, Mate, KDE, GNOME, Cinnamon, Budgie, Deepin, i3, LXQt. Of these choices, you know what? I'll go with the i3 edition because they mentioned that they did a lot of work on their i3 edition, so it makes sense to check that one out. Printing support might be useful on some physical machines. On this virtual machine, I won't bother. I don't need NVIDIA drivers or anything in this VM. Under accessibility tools, that would be things like the Orca screen reader. I really think that's all I'm going to tick on here. So I'm going to click Next. and then I need to create my username. I'll call my user DT. Then I need to create a strong and complicated password for the DT user. Use the same password for the administrator account? Absolutely. That way my DT password is the same as the sudo password. Summary here, location, looks good, keyboard looks good, partitioning looks good. I'm just going to click install. It's going to warn me that it's about to format the drive and write to the disk. Click install now and away we go. And typically this portion of a Linux install takes about 5 to 10 minutes, so I'll pause the recording and I'll come back as soon as the installation has completed. One thing I should mention while the installer is still running, it's been running for about 5 minutes and it's only 19% completed. I forgot, this is an online installation because it has to go and install everything, download everything through the package manager. The installation process will take a little longer than what it typically takes for most Linux installations. So the installation has completed. That installation took just under half an hour. Of course, with the Calamares installer, to finish installation, you have to tick Restart Now here, and then you have to click Done. And our freshly installed EndeavourOS is rebooting. Let me log in with my super secure password here. And this is EndeavourOS with the i3 window manager. And it launches 3 terminals out of the gate. I don't know why. That was very, very strange. Let's see if I can actually exit i3. I'll come back to this, but I'm very curious. Did I accidentally hit something, or does it seriously launch 3 terminals when you first log in? Yeah, it does. That's very strange. I don't know why they feel the need to launch me 3 terminals as soon as I log into i3. I'm assuming that's part of the customization that the Endeavor guys chose to put in here. And it looks like we're getting a pop-up that says important Arch news available. Do I want to see this? I'll read it later. One thing I have to be careful with, I didn't think about this when I chose the i3 window manager. By default, EndeavourOS and i3, they're using, I think, the super key, the Windows key, for the mod key. And that is also the mod key for the window managers on my host machine. So I hope I don't have some weird issues where I hit the super key for some stuff in the VM and it actually does stuff on my host machine. But if it happens, it happens. So we have this little welcome greeter here where we can update our mirrors, update the system, detect system issues, change display manager, get some wallpaper, package management stuff, Bluetooth, NVIDIA users. I guess that's to get our proprietary NVIDIA drivers if you use the NVIDIA cards. So that's all pretty cool. Let's see what closes the window. Does Super Shift C close the window? No, it does not. Does Super X close a window? Super Q close a window? Super C. I'm actually not sure what the key bindings are. There is, in the panel here, they made this clickable. The word key bindings, you click on it, and it actually does give us, looks like our i3 config where I could actually read the key bindings. So it looks like mod plus W opens a browser. That makes sense. Mod enter opens a terminal, which is Terminator by default here. It looks like they kept the horrible default i3 movement keys though, which are JKL semicolon instead of HJKL like every other sensible window manager in existence uses. Having them shifted over one key is incredibly frustrating. If you've ever used any other window manager, or if you're a Vim user, or you've used any programs that try to base themselves on the Vim key bindings, having the direction keys shifted over one key is like the most frustrating experience possible. I think most i3 users probably immediately change this to HJKL because JKL semicolon is just so horrid. Kill the focused window. It looks like that is set to F4. Just F4? Does that actually work? That is a strange key binding because in pretty much every tiling window manager I've ever used, they typically use one of 3 key bindings. Usually Super Shift C, C for close window, or Super X for X kill, basically, or Super Q for quit. Just hitting F4, one of the function keys on the keyboard, is a strange choice, especially because not every keyboard is as easy as just hitting a F4. Like on some laptops, you actually have to hit a function key and then another key to get F4. On my programmable keyboard here, my ErgoDox Easy, I have to switch layers on the keyboard actually to get to function keys. So I would have to immediately change that key binding to something that makes a little more sense, but I'll keep it for now. So F4 closes a window. I don't need all of these terminals open. So F4, does that close a terminal? It does. You know what? Let's run a quick sudo pacman-syu. Let's see how many updates are available. This was just recently released. It says there's nothing to do. Okay, awesome. The next thing I want to do is I want to do a quick XR and R, X-render, and let's see if I can get a 1920 by 1080 screen resolution. I can. So now I'm going to run a X-render-S 1920 by 1080. And let's get a proper full 1080p screen resolution for you guys. Alright, and typically on my terminal emulators I like to zoom in so you can see what's going on. I don't know what Terminator has as far as default key bindings to zoom in the text. Control plus. Alright, so already I can kind of get some work done. I'm going to close all the windows so you can see the wallpaper behind. It looks like when I did the X-render command, though, the wallpaper got a little wonky. If I restarted i3, I think Super Shift R restarts i3. It restarted it, but it did not fix our wallpaper. I wonder what wallpaper utility are they using. Let me do Super D, and this opens D menu, although it opens D menu at the top of the screen rather than at the bottom of the screen where the i3 panel is. That's an odd choice too, because I think the D menu would actually cover up your windows. Doing it that way, but it's not a horrible thing. It looks like nitrogen is installed, so I'm assuming they are using nitrogen to draw the wallpapers. If I do a quick apply, then close nitrogen, yes, now our wallpaper has been fixed. I will say the wallpaper is just gorgeous. I love the wallpaper. I also like what they've done with the i3 panel down here. It's very sexy. I like the colors. Still kind of a minimal kind of bar, which I'm a minimal kind of guy, but it does have a little bling to it. So now that we know mod D gets us D menu, I'm assuming Firefox is our default browser here. And let's see what version of Firefox we are on. I'm assuming this would be the absolute latest Firefox. Yeah, version 75.0. F4 to close the windows, and I'll go ahead and shut down Firefox. And let me pull up a terminal again here, and it looks like the terminal, when I launch the terminal, because I hit super enter, you see I get a red terminal here. This is a workspace called terminal. I was on a workspace called browser, so now the terminals, including those 3 terminals that launched when I first logged into i3, they actually launch on a workspace called terminal. Let me zoom back in here in Terminator. I probably should install one of the terminal emulators I actually know a little bit about. I've never really been a Terminator fan. But for now, I just want to stick with the default programs. If I do a pacman space -q, then let's pipe that into less. What that command was that's just querying pacman, the package manager, for everything that's installed on the system, and then I piped it into less. But it looks like for the most part, it's a very minimal install. It's mostly like base packages, a lot of the standard GNU utils. I was seeing what kind of like graphical applications they installed. Really haven't come across much here. Of course, Firefox we've already taken a look at. But again, it's a bunch of the standard utils and standard libraries. HTOP is on the system. Let me open up a second terminal. Let's actually run HTOP because I'm curious how much RAM this thing is using. Wow. Considering I've got a couple of terminal windows open, we are using a very, very small amount of memory right now. Only 246 megs of the 4 gigs of RAM that I gave this VM. We are using just a little bit of CPU. Probably most of that is from HTOP itself here. Let me close that window with HTOP. Alright, we have i3 blocks installed. That would be the panel they have gone with. We have i3 lock, which would be the lock screen. Looks like we have LeafPad installed for a plain text editor. LeafPad was the standard plain text editor in the LXDE desktop environment. It's a GTK application, which I believe the i3 version of Endeavor is trying to stick to mainly GTK. Roll past all the libraries. Linux. Let's see what version of the Linux kernel we have. We have very recent version of the kernel, 5.6.4. LX Appearance is also here. Now this is the GTK tool that allows you to change your GTK themes. So let's actually run LX Appearance. Now that's weird. When I start typing in D menu for LX Appearance, it doesn't actually appear in the list. You see, I'm typing, but there's no option. If I just type LX Appearance and hit enter, though, it does launch. That is weird that it doesn't appear correctly inside D menu. That's a bug, I'm assuming. Looks like by default we only have 3 GTK themes. We have Arc Dark, Arc Darker, and Raleigh. And the Arc Dark theme is the one I would probably go with for icons. Just 2 different icon sets, the Arc icon set and paper icons. Oh, there's also the Adwaita, which is like your standard default GNOME icon set. It looks hideous. I definitely would not choose that particular icon set. Looks like for a file manager, they have installed PCMan-FM, which is my preferred file manager on my minimal installations. If I need a graphical file manager, PCMan-FM is fabulous. Although I noticed it didn't launch when I tried to run it from D menu. So let me make sure. PCMan-FM. Okay. And I hit enter. That is very strange. Let me do PCMan-FM from the terminal and see if it throws up a bunch of errors. Yes, it's unable to locate the theme engine Adwaita. Unable to locate the theme engine Murin. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but we should probably search for that theme engine and install it so that PCMan-FM works. Well, let me zoom in this terminal here. I'm going to clear this screen. And if I do a pacman dash capital S lowercase s and then Murin, GTK dash engine dash Murin is the package here. So what I want to do is, of course, sudo pacman dash capital S for install, and then we want to copy GTK dash engine dash Murin. And let's go ahead and install that. And if I open D menu one more time and do PCMan-FM, will it actually launch? It still will not launch. If I try to launch it from the terminal, still complaining about theme engine Adwaita. I probably need to install GTK-engine-Adwaita, similar to what I just did for the Murin engine. So I'm just going to assume that's the name of the package without doing a search for it first, it's not the name of the package. I guess I'm actually going to have to search for it. So let's do a search for Adwaita, and then it's probably going to return a bunch of stuff. I'll actually grep engine in case engine is part of the name. It's not. Well, let's just take a look at everything that has Adwaita in the name. Just the Adwaita icon theme. So I don't know why PCMan-FM is not working. Do they have any other file managers installed? Is Thunar installed? No, it's not. You know what? Just so I have a file manager on the system, I will go ahead and install Thunar. Since PCMan-FM is giving me trouble, I could probably fix it, but I'm not going to take the time on this video to investigate further here. So let me F4 to kill that terminal window. And Pulseaudio volume control, it looks like it's installed on the system here. And we have a bunch of Perl libraries. PyCom is our compositor that is basically the new version of Compton. Compton is kind of a dead project, so it's been forked and renamed PyCom. And that's what gives us transparency, drop shadowing. It helps prevent screen tearing, so you really want a compositor running. Of course, we got some Python libraries on the system. Rofi. So both dmenu and Rofi are installed, but I wonder why I didn't see a key binding for Rofi when I clicked on key bindings down here. Maybe it was in here and I just didn't find it. If I do a search, so let me do search, find Rofi. Oh, there it is. And it is bound to F9. Again, very strange key binding. And that is Rofi. So if I hit F9, Rofi's another run command launcher, very similar to D menu. I'm going to escape out of that, and then I'm going to F4 to kill that window. We have some fonts installed on the system. We have the Deja Vu family, the Liberation font family, and the Ubuntu font family. All three kind of standard open source font families that are probably pre-installed on most Linux distributions these days. And then I've got a bunch of Xorg utilities. Xterm is also installed if I wanted a terminal emulator other than Terminator, and I don't mind Xterm. It's a fine terminal emulator, and that really is about it. Now let me Q to quit out of lists here. I'm going to run that same command, pacman-q, to get a list of all our packages, but this time I'm going to pipe it into wc space -l for line count. I want a line count. 733 packages. That's what I thought. Very, very minimal installation. That is about as lightweight of a default installation as I've seen as far as something that's not like a server install. So pretty much you're going to have to install the programs that you use on a daily basis. You notice I didn't come across any kind of office suites. I didn't come across things like GIMP and Inkscape, any multimedia stuff. So it's a very bare bones system, and I like it. I actually really kind of dig this. If somebody is looking for an easy way to get into Arch, so an easy Arch installation with a pre-configured i3, this isn't bad, because it doesn't come with a ton of bloat. The only thing I would recommend to the EndeavourOS guys is maybe work on the key bindings a little bit. Maybe ask some people that use tiling window managers or have used a lot of tiling window managers on a regular basis about some of the key bindings. I mean, you can always change the key bindings, but I really think you got to switch to HJKL for the motion keys. You just have to. Don't leave that set to JKL semicolon. It's just going to make so many people mad. The i3 devs hear about that all the time, and they are very stubborn. They refuse to change the default key binding, and it's one of the biggest complaints about the i3 window manager. They just refuse to change it because they're like, yeah, we know everybody uses HJKL, but you know what? We're going to do JKL semicolon because hey, whatever. But you guys, if you're shipping a customized i3 on your distribution, you don't have to keep the default key bindings. You're already adding a bunch of your own customized key bindings anyway. Swap that over to HJKL, and I think the community would really appreciate that. All in all, I think this new release of EndeavourOS is good. I like the installation. I like that net installer, and their customized i3 Window Manager edition looks fabulous. Now, before I go, this show was produced by Michael, Mitchell, Chris, DJ, Donnie, Dylan, George, Haplo, Nate, LibreQuest, Omri, Rob, Sean, and Willie. These guys, they are the producers of this episode. Without these guys, this quick look at EndeavourOS wouldn't have been possible. The show is also brought to you by all of these fine ladies and gentlemen. This ever-growing list of names you're seeing on the screen right now, these are all my supporters over on Patreon, because this channel is supported by you guys, the community. This show is not corporate sponsored. You guys pay the bills. I want to thank each and every one of my supporters on Patreon, and if you guys want to support me, consider doing so. You'll find DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace.